Hello again, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Ask a Maker Educator from Maker Ed. I'm Danny, and I'm super excited to be here again hosting. And this week we've got another great guest from the Maker Educator community. We have Mark Schreiber from Design Case. He's going to jump into a lot of awesome topics with us around some of his work related to assessment and integrating making in a lot of really amazing ways. So I will let Mark take it away and introduce himself a little more. Mark, tell us about yourself.
Yeah, great. Hey, Danny, thanks for having me on. It's probably a lot warmer there in California than it is here in Colorado, but I'm dealing with it. But I'm jonesing for the beach there. I want to come your way next time. But I'm Mark Schreiber. I'm a full-time consultant in the Maker Ed space and helping schools, Intel, companies, large and small, to integrate hands-on education into schools, or just try to get students to be making things more, from low tech to high tech and everywhere in between. And I'm one of the senior Stanford fellows for the FabLearn, Digital FabLearn program. They just started a new cohort too. So lots of stuff going on.
Great. Lots of really great stuff. And if you're unfamiliar with FabLearn or the Fab Fellowship program, we'll post a link to it after we're done, and you can check out some of the amazing work that all of those folks are up to. So to start us off, Mark, so you mentioned that you talk a lot about integrating making into different subjects. So can you tell us a little about how that's worked for you, and what you think about whether making should be its own independent class or its own lab, or something that really weaves its way into the rest of work that's going on in schools and learning environments?
Yeah, and that's a question that gets asked a lot, and that's my passion. I'm passionate to get things integrated. I feel like if we just make making another special like PE or art and silo it off into a lab somewhere, it's just going to kind of fizzle out, and it'll just be a 21st century shop, right? And that's not really what we're going for. What we're going for is innovation, creativity, merging together art and science and history and technology and everything in together. And we've just got kind of the perfect storm right now with all the DIY, with the totally affordable tools and printers and hardware and 3D and laser cutters. I mean, even, Glowforge is starting to ship finally. And I mean, there's so many different things that are actually out there that are easy to get our hands on and use, and even just paper and tape and crafts. So yeah, so all that to say, my passion is integration. I love to get things integrated into schools, and I find it just works better, right? I mean, you get you've got to minister to a pain point. You've got to have something for a teacher to a reason for them to want to do constructivism, hands-on education in their class. So if you say to them, hey, just strap on this other thing, now you need to learn how to use a blank tool and process, that doesn't help them. But if you say, hey, what's your project? How can we make it better? How can we get kids moving? How can we have them something to think back on that's really going to help them in their day-to-day life, but also in their test scores potentially, and just get them something to really hook that knowledge into? I find that teachers really respond well to that. And so that's kind of that's my evangelical soapbox, I guess, for making. Yeah,
definitely. And you're absolutely right that is a question we hear asked a lot, and something that really is a challenge for a lot of educators. Do you have some examples that stand out on either end of the spectrum where you've seen it go really successfully and see that integration really take off, or on the other hand, where it's been a real challenge and it hasn't been quite as successful?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, I'll start with the success. I always like to start with success. One of the favorite projects that I've been, it's just a great example, is right behind me. I've got, it's like, hey, I've been working on it. So I've got basically a makey, so capacitive touch or touch sensitive device. And then we hook it up to, you can kind of see, I don't know, down here, you can see some copper. And what we did is we put a ground plate in there. And this whole thing is a historical quilt. So we took, I'm kind of wired in here with my headphones, but you can see, I'll just lean back. We took acrylic or felt quilt squares. We laser cut them, but this could be cut out by hand. And then each student basically takes scratch and they key map with a hat that says when the D key is pressed, then play this recording. And so they record their voice and they narrate, Paul Revere ride, or this was done for American history class for third graders. So as they're studying about the Boston Tea Party, they're studying about, Paul Revere, they're looking at their subject, and now they're actually getting excited. They're adding programming into it. They're adding some basic understanding of electronics and circuitry. They're doing 2D vector design if they want to, or they're handcrafting and cutting. They're sewing. And at the end of it, they get to touch it, right? And it connects the two pieces of metal on there, and boom, plays their sound. And, it takes about 4 makes to do a whole class, and it's a great project. So that's kind of the integrated side. But that came down to, hey, my students are just learning facts. How do we make this come to life? Sure. So that was a great project. On the other side, though, I think when staff or faculty try to put something in a square peg in a round hole, sometimes they're saying, okay, well, we got to do this maker thing. And then they get really frustrated because at the end of the day, they've put too much time in, and now the kids aren't, they did this great craft project, and maybe they learned some good stuff, but it didn't go in the direction where they want. So you really have to have a vision for where you're going and then minister to that actual problem to take care of it. So that's where I think where the failure is that people do it for the sake of doing it, right? And then they don't get the test scores they want. Now they just failed on 2 accounts, and then they go, this isn't for me, right? Does that answer the question there?
Yeah, I think it definitely does. And so, do you have any other standout examples? I know you're sure you got a lot, and that history one is really amazing. Do you have other ones that you would want to share?
Trying to think. So, yeah, okay. So we've done a lot with like a Me lamp, where it's basically just a laser cut or a paper flat panel folded box. It doesn't have to, you could have a vinyl cutter, you could have a laser cutter, you could finger joint things together, and you can make a box. You can get vinyl cutter paper folding templates online, and you can fold them up. And then what we do is we actually have students express themselves. Okay, who are you, right? Tell the class about yourself. And now it's more of this personal project. It's democratization, right? They're doing it because they want to. But it also, you can integrate it into so many different things. If it's just and then you put maybe a NeoPixel in the middle, or some LED or just a light bulb, and you kind of light up this box that has these silhouettes casting around the outside of it. And then students get to do public speaking about it. It's like a big show and tell. That's been a real fun one. I'm trying to think some other integrated ones. Oh, real fun, kind of using the design cycle. We had at American School in Japan, we actually had students from the 6th grade class take the whole empathy track, right, from design thinking. So start with empathy, know your client, and their client was a kindergartner. So now we're not just spanning subjects, right? We're spanning, we're walking them through the design process in a real world thing, and they have a customer of a kindergartner, and they have to design a sticker, right? Pretty easy, vinyl cutter sticker. And the kindergartners, they interview them and they tell them all this stuff. Well, that's integrated across so many different things, because now they're learning what it really means to get out in the world and talk to people. And kindergartners are hard to talk to. So, so that was a great one. And then, they go back for revisions. And so
how do the students respond to a project like that, getting to both make something and have that hands-on experience, but also have potentially a new social community experience?
Yeah, I love being able to bring it into the community. Let's just use the kindergarten example. Even within the school, just jumping down and being able to say, first of all, it lets the kindergartners get excited about what they can do when they're 6th graders. Wow, when I'm in 6th grade, I get to, right? But at the same time, it really pins the 6th graders to a place where they didn't have to be before when they're doing a worksheet. So now they have to, on the fly, interact and talk and go, well, my client said that they wanted a sticker of a rock, and I made a rock, and they don't like it. So, and so they get all these social, emotional things that actually start coming. Middle school's a great thing to work on social emotional at that time. And so they just get to do that, and that was a really great project. But there's other projects that we've done with older students with communities and do smart agriculture, right? Do a plant metering system and in their community garden, what's a community issue you can solve? And these are 18 to 20-year-old workforce development students, and they're trying to do a IoT, Internet of Things kind of project that tells them when to water and when plants are ready and sensors. But once again, they're giving back to the community.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's the integration point. It goes away from me and it becomes all about we. And that's, it's just a big part when you can make that step with kids. Now you've got them out of just doing a project for a project's sake.
Definitely. Yeah, I really love that. Away from me and towards we. That's a great way to kind of put a very big topic.
Yeah.
So this is a question I'm sure you get a lot, and one that we've already prepped to talk about because I'm very excited about it. You're mentioning all these amazing cross subject, cross community connections. How do you assess something like this? How do you dig into really measuring learning or measuring growth, or what even are the measurements you would want to look at in something like this?
Yeah, excuse me. Assessment's it's a battle, right? I mean, so part of, well, step back a little bit. You could step back and say that making and maker education and kind of this big wave crashing on shore right now, partly is due to a kickback in standardized testing, right? People are saying, why are we spending so much time on trying to get the right grade when really we could actually be teaching kids a holistic approach to something? Sure. Now, with that said, you still have to you're still on the hook for assessment. And we all are. I go to my job, and if I don't do what I was supposed to do, I don't get paid, right? It's a real world thing. And so I don't think we should just say, well, standardized testing, throw it out the window. I think there's a good integration point. And so we've really tried to say, okay, if we're all, we all drank the water, and we said that this is the good thing to do. Making's gonna help students learn better and have better skills for the future and be ready in the 21st century for jobs and innovation, culture, and the economy. Well, then we need to actually assess that. So with that, that's been a big impetus to try to get this thing going. So we worked last year, the American School of Japan. A couple of us worked with the 9th grade 9 teachers that were doing this design and fabrication class. And we came up with this rubric. And a lot of it came up with what isn't this? What aren't we trying to assess? When you kind of look at that question of what isn't making, then you start to go, okay, here's what is. And so with that, we developed this rubric, and we broke it into 2 categories. We said you have to have skills, hard skills, and you have to have soft skills. And so I'll call those skills, and I'll call those mindsets. And then within the mindsets, we really broke the mindsets into 4 different aspects, and we kind of took it like a mixer board. You've seen a mixer board where you push the slide boards forward on an audio board, and you kind of fade up. And so we said, okay, everybody starts at 0 volume, and we're going to start, and we have 22 different things maybe that we want them to learn, skills and mindsets. And at the end of the course, we would like them to have most of them pegged. But Danny, you might have the left-hand side of the board pegged, and I might have the right-hand side of the board pegged, and we might only have a little overlap, and we are completely fine with that because once again, we're not trying to make it cookie cutter. We're trying to make it democratic. So I don't know if you have a way to screen share or.
I do, yeah. So which of the resources over?
Yeah, let's pull that maker mindset one up first. Okay. Because this is the one I get asked more about. A skill set, sure. You either have the skill or you don't, and you can badge it out. And there's lots of information on how to get skills. But I think we've got a little unique way of doing it too later. But this mindset one is here. So we broke it into 4 different groups, and we said creative confidence, effective use of the design cycle, kind of a maker mindset, and communication. We had some sub-points in there. And if you look on the left-hand side, I'd say this is the 0. We're all in developing mastery. We walk into the class, and a student says, hey, I'm unsure, 1.1, creative confidence, I'm unsure of my next steps in the design process. And I need some teacher support, and I need somebody to kind of, give me a little push and say, hey, take some risks here and try doing this and be okay with failing for success sake and to learn that. But as they push this slider forward, they go to approaching mastery, and then finally in mastery. And what we asked, and you see this DT column, that was the date that we actually had them. And what we do is we put this on a Google form online and just share it with each student. We were using Google Class at the time. And the student would go and they'd put their date time in, and they would highlight where they thought they were. I think I'm at developing mastery. So got a little echo there, Dan.
Oh, let me mute first.
Okay. So we've got they all start there in developing mastery, and they would go color code it at a certain date stamp. So we had 3 different checks during the semester or quarter, depending how you were doing it. And they would go through, and then the faculty member would come back and say, well, you thought you were approaching mastery. I get that. Let's have a little conference here. And they put some notes in it. I think you're a little more on developing mastery, but over on this one that you put approaching mastery, I think you've already got it. I've seen this, and here's my indicators of why we think you're at mastery. And what we asked is we asked all the students let's quantify it. We've got an A, B, C system still. To be able to get an A, we wanted you to have all the things pegged to the right except for 2. So we wanted everything to be on mastery except for 2 of them could be approaching mastery. And then we had a downgrade, I guess, of that, of saying, okay, a B is going to be 3 in the approaching mastery, the rest mastery, and then, continuing on. So that's kind of how we worked that. And these 4 categories, I get asked a lot about why did we pick these 4 categories. And there's not this big statistical quantitative research study we did. We asked students, we asked teachers, we said, what's important to you? We asked makerspaces, what makes a makerspace? Okay, part of it is there's somebody that's really good at sewing, and there's somebody else that's really good at hardware hacking, and all of a sudden they're sitting next to each other and they brainstorm this idea, and that's how companies are made, right? And so once again, we wanted to be able to use those same mindsets and kind of rubrify them, I guess, into a way where they could actually get this. So we also prioritized the design cycle. But our confidence with the 9th graders was, I think, the biggest thing. And I think we even added a column there, or a row at one point, because of we just knew that they really needed a little more confidence. And then the maker mindset was, just being able to communicate and kind of have that, I'm okay with experimenting, I'm okay with hacking things and changing and remixing. And then finally, communication. If you don't have communication, you can be a really good tech guy, tech girl, but that's kind of the problem with tech guys and tech girls sometimes is it's the Saturday Night Live skit. Here, I got it, I'll take care of it. So we need to be able to have communication, and that's verbal and visual. So this really, to us, was the point where we could focus on the intersection of art, design, technology, and help push kids to say, yeah, I'm not great on communication, but I'm going to work on it because I want to get that grade. And if that's their motivation, that's fine. And at the other time, there's a democratization, right? An individual ownership that helps too. So maybe we talk for just a minute, Danny, now that you can unmute, and then we can look at the skills one after this. If you have questions
Sure.
on that one, sure.
Well, one thing that really I wonder a lot about is, so you mentioned the maker mindset. I hear questions from educators a lot about how do you kind of spark this mindset in students who might not be used to it. So for something like this, how do students respond to a grading or a rubric system that is so different than what they might be used to?
Right. And what we said was, you don't have to be great at every single category. We didn't quantify that you have to have mastery in maker mindset. You could be down 2. So if you're down 2, maybe you're just approaching mastery in maker mindset, and that's okay. Maybe you're really good at communication. So part of it was we tried to tailor it in a way where it wasn't just all or nothing. And so that gave kids, I think, a leeway and an understanding to really feel empowered to jump and to try something. So I think if you say, hey, you all have to get maker mindset and you have to get skill 3.1 down pat, well, in some ways that shuts kids down. Yeah. So we like to have that quantifiable change where, and I tell kids again, we don't want everybody coming out the same. we're not looking for standard. We're looking for quality, but we're not looking for everybody being cookie cutter. So,
that's
part of
so
it.
Is the response generally, are they into it? Do they feel, is it overwhelming for students, or do they kind of, with that framing, do they really jump into it?
Oh, this, both. So kids want to get an A, right? There's kids that's the only thing they've known is to get an A. So to pull that rug out from them and to say, here you go, we're doing this slider thing, and you go, it takes some energy to for the faculty to really get buy-in and really help them understand. But I think once they have that first date check and they realize that they're moving forward, that's a good thing, right? And so I think it's a comforting, it's a feedback loop. It's more real world, and we try to help them say, hey, this is more real world. And I think you're doing, the kid that just is, concrete sequential, just wants everything specific, 1, 2, 3, give me the steps so I can do it. That's the hardest kid, because they want the Lego, and there's nothing wrong with that, right? So we tried to make the rubric to say, you don't have to be the master maker Lego person that builds outside of the box, right? You can go through the steps and you can get it instructable and you can do it and you can give it your own flair, and we're still fine with that. So it's really meeting students where they are. Now with that meeting where they are, if you have a little time, I'd love to look at that second one, because
definitely.
That other skills one is what I think helped students get even a little more buy-in, because it's more quantitative and less nebulous for students.
Pull that up, because I agree. This would be really great to show.
All right. So on this one, we did skills and knowledge, and we said that once again, we have to be accountable for a certain thing. Just like a job, you have to be able to do a base level, and at the same time, I want you to leverage who you are. I want you to be the person that you're made to be and shine in those areas. So we said, okay, you still got to do core, and here's your core skills. We wanted them, and this was a grade 9 class. These were our picks, but these could be lots of different ones. Fundamental electricity and electronic circuits, and this is really just a series and parallel circuit, maybe some copper tape and LEDs. And once again, we don't want to say you don't have it. We wanted to say you're not quite there yet. You're not there yet. You're going to be there. Don't worry about it. You're going to be there. So we really did a status there, no attempt versus skill complete. And we just, once again, had 4 dates on that one. Soldering, we thought that was needed to be able to safely and effectively use that. Arduino or board use, that was really just getting, if you're familiar with Arduino or people out there, there's an IDE component, the actual software, and you have to be able to pick a board, and you have to be able to plug it in, and you have to, select, is it a tiny USB, or, all these different things. So we wanted them to be able to get a program to the board and have it work. So this wasn't necessarily programming, but board use. Basic vector drawing, that was important because we were using laser cutters and laser cutter down there. Orthograph for projection, just a 3-view drawing. Once again, that skill side of things, so they can cut things on the laser. And then scroll on down here. And so that was our core, a couple more core skills, form and function. And then we gave them some questions here, and these are downloadable on the site right there, and I'll, I think Danny's probably going to give a link later. But scrolling down one more there, this is what I really thought gave them ownership, is we said the tier 1 skills, you just have to do it. I'm sorry. If you do it, these are safety things. These are things that are going to help you excel in the future. But don't fret, because you have tier 2 skills, and we just want you to pick 5 from any of these skills here. We want you to pick 5 of those. And then we want you to pick, and then kind of down the funnel. So everybody's got the core, and then moving down the funnel, pick 5. And then we want you to really own one of these skills and really do a deep dive and dig in on that. And so that was the tier 3 skill. And with that, everybody in the list had a different funnel. right? Some were really interested in electronics, some were interested in drawing, some were interested in tools, techniques. Somebody really was a vinyl cutter guru, somebody was a laser cutter guru, somebody really just wanted to do Raspberry Pi and coding and didn't want to do any physical digital fabrication necessarily. But the cool thing about that was that it goes down the funnel, and we have experts now in the room instead of just the faculty member. So everybody now, at the end of quarter one or quarter two, you have an expert in the room that you can start using them and say, oh, hey, Danny, you're really into basic electronics and some Arduino. You know what? But looks like you need some help with the laser cutter. Hey, hey, Bar, go over here and help out. She was really good. Help out with the laser cutter. So she'd go help out with the laser cutter. So that's the gist, but I really like that because it dials them into their interest, and they buy in because of that.
Yeah, that's really cool, and I think gets to something that is so important about making in general, is that it's about what you're excited about and what you as a person who is making something really is passionate about. So this is a really great way to bring that into assessment, it seems like.
Yep. Yep.
And do you find that let me come back.
Sure.
Do you find that students respond well to that, and that they are making new connections and kind of taking on roles as mentors or teachers in your classrooms?
Yeah, it's almost out of necessity. If a teacher is going to run a class like this, there's not enough right? There's just not enough manpower to go around and teach each student specifically about this. So you have to really rely heavily on tutorials, on self-guide, and then other experts in the room. And you have to be comfortable saying, I don't know, or I know, but I just don't have time right now. And that's not a bad thing. This is, once again, real world. How about you ask three, there's a saying, three before me, right? So ask three people before the teacher. And then once you have that one done, maybe go to just like in the real world, you might hire a consultant. And I always consider the faculty member the consultant in the room. And they're the one that's going to troubleshoot and tweak things. So
that's great. And I think that's a really wonderful way to wrap up. We may have already shared, I'm not sure what's been going out, but if we haven't yet, we definitely will be sharing links to, we did share links. I'm getting the word that we shared links to these amazing resources that you put together. Before we wrap up, Mark, are there any other resources or communities that you want to highlight and get people to know about?
Yeah, sure. We're launching with a bunch of the FabLearn fellows and other makers around the nation. We're launching a thing called Year in the Making, yearinthemaking.com, and that's basically Ask a Mentor. So you'd basically log in, send a question, then we just have it fielded to different experts. So if there's a Raspberry Pi, it's kind of like the rubric that I said. People that have gone deep in one area, we just send it that way to you, and just trying to connect the maker community a little bit more. And then the other thing that we just launched yesterday is the Ugly Sweater Throwdown. So if you've got an ugly sweater of the maker type, with makey maybe, capacitive touch, maybe put some conductive buttons on there that play some musical trivia. Go ahead and go to the You're in the Making site, and it's highlighted there, and you can enter to win. And we've got a bunch of stuff that you guys can get for winning.
That's super fun. And a great little incentive to check out Year in the Making. Excited to take a look. Thank you so much, Mark. This has been really awesome and insightful, and I hope that folks out in YouTube world have learned a lot from your amazing assessment work. Next week, we'll be back again with another Ask a Maker Educator. We're going to have Gina Thackeray joining us. So if you are excited about continuing to dig into these awesome Ask a Maker Educator live sessions, join us at 4 o'clock next Wednesday. That's Pacific Standard Time. And thank you so much, Mark. And we'll be sure to share out all the links and resources you've put together for us.
Great. Hey, thanks so much, Danny. Enjoy your day.
Great.
See you. Bye-bye.
Bye.